In our previous video, we have created an abstraction that is a function that accepts two parameters, type and attribute. And based on the type, we are creating the element and putting all the attributes into the element. So now our app looks something like this, where we can see all the attribute and name of the element in the same function. So it is looking a bit more simpler. Now what we will do, we will add the last thing that element needs, and that is the children part. So as we have seen it here, as we have seen it earlier, that each element can have multiple children, and each children can be of two different types. It can either be an object or it can be a string, like in this case. So that is what we are going to take care of next time. So here we'll take a look at the element that we want to create. Inside UL, we have li. Each li has multiple children like input, p, and span. P has just one children, that is a string. So we have to take care of all these conditions in a different way. So think about it like this. Like right now we have li element. Li element doesn't have any attribute. So we'll just pass an empty object. What all children that we need for this element? If you look at it, you'll see you need three children, input, p, and span. So we can pass it like an object. Like I can just copy this from here and paste it direct here right now. So what happens is li is the element that doesn't accept any attribute, but it has one children, that is another element, that is input. Similarly, the another child is element p. So again, I'll copy it here. We can either put it into an array or we can make it look like something like this. The first parameter is always the name of the element. Second parameter is the attributes, and everything else is going to be a children. So we can pass it like this. So this is our second children. Similarly, what is the third children? This is our span. So I'll copy it from here and paste it right next to p element. So this is what we are going to handle now in our function. So let's see how we can handle that. But one point to notice, we are not only having one children, we can have multiple. So all the parameter other than the name and attribute is going to act like a children. So for this case, we are going to use rest parameter. So first parameter is going to be type, second is going to be attributes, and everything after that is going to be a children. And we know that children will be an array of all the children. So if you want to test, let's go ahead and console log children. So here, for the first time, we are calling it with multiple children, but other time we are not calling it. Let's refresh it. And here we can see the children is input check, p, and span. All of them, you can access it with the keyword children. So now let's go ahead and start taking care of our children. So we know that children is going to be an array. So we will loop over all the children. So we'll say children.forEach. So when you use for each over children, it is going to give you access to one individual child. And for each child, we have to take care of two conditions. That we have seen it earlier. That child can be of two types. Either it will be a string or it will be an object in these cases. Because it is an element, right? And each element is an object. So how can we take care of that? We'll just use a simple if-else condition. We'll say if type of child is going to be an object, so we'll say equal to object. If that is the case, what do we need to do? We need to append it into the element. So we'll say element.append whatever is a child, whether it is input, a p, or span. But if it is not the case, so we can write else statement or we can write multiple if here. So first if is done, we can just put another if. If type of child is equal to string. So in case of paragraph here, we are considering to do .name to be an attribute. But we have discussed earlier that we don't want to do it this way. So if we look at p, we are looking at play basketball to be as an attribute. But as we have discussed here in this example, that we want this to also be considered as children. So that's why I'm going to remove this from here, pass an empty object, and third parameter is where we are going to pass the children, and the children is to do the name. So in this case, play basketball is a string. So whenever you have a string, what you need to do, you need to create the element from the string. And if you don't know how to create element using string, you can say document.createElement. So when you use create element, it creates an element. Say for example, I want to create P. So it will create P element. But what if I want to create text node? So there is another function in document known as createTextNode. And here you can pass any text. Say for example, hello. So it will create a hello object. If you want to understand the difference, when you say document.createTextNode and look at the type of it, you will see it is an object. And that is the difference. Like you cannot append a string, but you can append an object. So that is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to create text node. So we'll call let node is equal to document.createTextNode, and whatever value I'm getting from there will be coming as child. So we'll create text node, and at last we'll do the same thing that we did earlier, append it to the element. So I think this will take care of what we want. What are the things that we need? We need access to all the children. That is an array. We are looping over all the children. We are getting access to one child, and the child can be of two kinds. One of type string and another of type object. So if it is of type object, just append it. I don't have to do anything. But if it is of type node, we have to create the text node and push it into element. Now is the time to finally refactor this app. So we will look at all the structure and try to create that. So let's look at the structure. So we need to create a li element. So we are saying li element. The type of element is li. We don't need any attribute because you can see there is no attribute in li. There are three children of li: input, p, and span. And that is what we are passing here: input, p, and span. So inside input, you can see there are three attributes: type, class, and data ID. So we are passing it here. And there is no children of input. Otherwise, we would have passed the next parameter. Similarly, in this case, so next child is paragraph element. So we are saying elm, we are creating the element p. There is no attribute, and to do that name is going to be the children. In our case, it is play basketball. The last case, we are saying we need a span element, and span element, so right now it has three attributes, and you can see class name, inner text, and data ID. And what we have talked about inner text. Inner text may look like an attribute, but we want to consider it as a children element. So to the span element, we are going to pass the third parameter, that is going to be the children, and this children is of type string. So this is how we can create an element in one go. Now we do not have to do anything right here, so we'll delete this part. Even this part we don't have to do because our function is doing it for us. So we'll delete this part also. So now if you look at the structure, this is what it looks like. Li element doesn't have any attribute. It has three children: input, p, and span. Input has four attributes: type, class name, checked, and data ID. It doesn't have any children. So going forward, we have p element. It doesn't have any attribute. It has one children. Similarly, we have span element. It has two attributes: class name, data ID, and we have one children, that is the cross symbol. So now I think our app should be working properly. Let's refresh it. Look at console. We don't see any error. The app is looking good. Let's go ahead and try to use it. So we'll say learn DOM. Press enter. It is working properly, right? We can add more to do if you want to. Maybe watch movie. Press enter. Mark it as checked. We can click on active. It is working. Completed. We can clear the completed, come back to all, and we can see all the features are working. Now you must be thinking, after doing all these things, it looks a bit more complicated. I know for the first time it will look like that. The readability was a huge issue earlier, But now, just looking at this element for the first time, we can see, okay, we have li element, these are the attributes, and these are the children. Means at least they are sticking together, right? Like, so readability has enhanced a bit. And that is what we wanted. By just using a simple function, we made the readability of dynamic HTML a bit better. The best part of writing this kind of a function is you're not only using it for this app, you can use it for any other app. And that is what we will see in the next video. Right now, all the things are working properly. We have refactored by creating an abstraction called ELM that accepts 3 parameters: type, attribute, and children. The first thing we are doing is creating the element, looping over all the attribute, and based on the attribute name, we are either using set attribute or we are directly adding it to the element. And here for children, we know that there are multiple kind of children we can have. Some children can be an object because it is an element. But some children will be a string. Something like h1 will have something like hello world. So in that case, we are using createTextNode to create the node and then append it. So in our next video, we will try to use this same function on different app.